Hello and welcome to this week's edition of AAN News. I'm Lily Kim. Immigrant rights group paid close attention to the President's State of the Union address last week. One such group is the Korean American Resource and Cultural Center. With millions of undocumented workers in the nation, the issue of immigration was an important part in the President's speech.
We need to uphold the great tradition of the melting pot that welcomes and assimilates new arrivals.
The President's speech on getting a comprehensive immigration reform in place drew applause from both political sides in Congress.
To secure our border, we're doubling the size of the Border Patrol and funding new infrastructure and technology.
Here in the Windy City, the Korean American Resource and Cultural Center said toughening the border should not be the main goal.
We're a little concerned about some of the things that he had to say about focusing still so much on border security and also on a temporary workers program that doesn't necessarily have any worker protections in it.
But the President's message is loud and clear.
We need to resolve the status of the illegal immigrants who are already in our country without animosity and without amnesty. We should establish a legal and orderly path for foreign workers to enter our country to work on a temporary basis. As a result, they won't have to try to sneak in. Let us have a serious, civil, and conclusive debate so that you can pass and I can sign comprehensive immigration reform into law.
So for immigrants whose fate and legal status depend on the laws passed on this issue, the KRCC said,
we should be active and we should make sure that our voices are heard in this discussion, this debate. Too often people think this is only an issue that's affecting the Latino community, but that is grossly untrue because we know, many of our family members are separated from each other in our community because of the backlogs. Many of our friends, family members, people we work with are undocumented, and the only way this is going to change for our community is if we also stand up with other communities and say that we think this is wrong, we want it to change, we talk to our legislators, we register to vote, we do all those things to be active participants in American society.
Talking to lawmakers in Washington, D.C. is exactly what they will do this week.
KRCC's community organizer, along with one of our community leaders, are traveling to Washington, D.C. next week to spend the week there, both participating in a national summit of immigrant rights organizations to discuss a strategy for this year, and then also to visit with some of our legislators here from Illinois. And then also we're joining Korean Americans from our affiliate centers in New York and Los Angeles, and they'll be visiting their legislators as well, trying to encourage them to pass the most humane form of immigration reform this year.
Ingrid Yunada, AAN News.
Once again, racial insensitivity strikes and Asian media watchdogs bite back. In a recent article of Contra Costa, one headline about Emmy and Golden Globe winning show 24 read, "Chinks in Jack's Armor." In response, co-chair of Asian American Journalists Media Watch Committee wrote a letter to the California-based paper saying that they were mystified by the offensive headline, and also with an insert that read, "Kiefer Sutherland suffering torture at the hands of the Chinese." AAJA says that they didn't know who to be more upset at, the headline writer who thought the double entendre to be clever or the editor who gave the seal of approval. AAJA still waits for a response. She could be the first Asian American in the City of Chicago Council if elected, and with the hours crunching down, this community leader celebrated the endorsements of a few organizations and political leaders. AAN takes you to Nazy Dolar's fundraiser. What seems to be easier to run for alderman than to fight the alderman, she's running at it full force.
Well, it's time that we expect more for our ward and for our city. We deserve somebody who believes in the voice of the people, and it's time for a new generation of leadership that reaches out to all people in the neighborhood.
California Democrat Congressman Mike Honda has been behind this 50th Ward alderman.
Her energy and her willingness to work in the community, being the daughter of the community, impressed me. And as an Asian American, I look for people like that to help and endorse.
Iraqi war veteran Tammy Duckworth and retired Judge Abner Mikva has Nazy Dolar's back too. But recently, she's gotten the endorsements of Fraternal Order of Police and of the Independent Voters of Illinois Independent Precinct Organization. While all the endorsements generate a new boost to the campaign, the IVI-IPO is a marked indication of the mood. The IVI-IPO comes from residents who interviewed all candidates and their stance. Dolar has spent most of her life in this area, experiencing the deteriorating conditions over the years from current alderman Bernie Stone.
When you have an alderman for as long as we've had, that's over 33 years, you begin to accept what you get. Well, it's time that we expect more for our ward and for our city. We deserve somebody.
Tuesday, January 30th is the last day to register for the general elections. You can go in person at the Chicago Board of Elections at the 69 West Washington building downtown, or at any Chicago Public Library or any Secretary of State DMV. Korean delegates met with Tammy Duckworth, who now heads the Illinois Veteran Affairs. The purpose of the meeting, how Illinois handles their affairs, then applying it back to Korea. Ingrid Yonada has more on the story.
복지 관련적으로 연수를 왔습니다. 그래서 앞으로 뭐 넣어.
A room full of reporters ask a light-hearted Tammy Duckworth this question.
So I going to run again.
I don't know. I have not said no. I may do it, but I think right now in Illinois we're all waiting to see what Barack does. Yeah.
Part of her new job under the governor was to familiarize the Korean officials to Illinois' VA programs and management.
우리나라 보건 제도도 상당히 뛰어납니다. 전 세계적으로 봤을 때.
Basically, he came here because in Illinois there is a way that the government and the military, as well as the all the VA, the veterans organizations, and the hospitals, the VA hospitals, they connect in a certain way that they have this partnership where we can have a program like Veterans Care and these trips to teachers and things like that. And he's saying in Korea right now everything is separate, so it's really hard for veterans to receive an affordable health insurance program or to get a good job after their military duty because they don't have that sort of same setup. So, one of the main purposes of his visit and the delegates here today was to kind of figure out what that connection was, how was that partnership made, and how Illinois managed to kind of break those barriers and come together so that we could provide our veterans with better services.
Duckworth said improving service for the veterans was part of the reason why she ran for Congress last year.
When we say veterans, it's not a nameless, faceless person. These are my comrades. These are my buddies. These are people that I served with. So it's a very deeply personal thing for me. This is not a job that is just a 9-to-5 job. This is part of who I am as a person. So you're going to see me bring that level of commitment, that level of dedication to this position.
Tammy Duckworth has a lot in her agenda, creating programs that will benefit more than 1 million veterans in the country. But unfortunately, Filipino World War II veterans won't be able to enjoy any of these benefits.
So what role would you be playing as your position as director here for the VA in terms of like getting the veterans to get their benefits, or what are your views?
Well, I would have to meet with the governor's office to see what we can do by state law. We actually are bound by how the law was written at the state level for this program. And so I will have to look at that law and then work with the state legislators. So the governor can certainly recommend a few things, but he must also stay within the parameters of the law as the way it was written by our state senators and our state representatives. So it's a process that I'm going to have to work through and take a look at. But I've met with during my campaign, I certainly met with the Filipino World War II veterans, and I know who they are, and I absolutely understand their plight.
The delegates chose to study Illinois' VA department because of its size and ethnic diversity. Ingrid Yanada, AAN News.
A world champion ice skater and an American icon is skating to diplomacy. Michelle Kwan is spending time at hardscrabble schools for migrant children as well as some Beijing high schools. Kwan is studying political science at the University of Denver. Last year, Kwan was named America's first public diplomacy envoy, a position created to try to improve the U.S. image abroad. The world's largest coffee chain will soon be brewing up all over India, supporting plans by Starbucks to triple its stores to 40,000 worldwide. Starbucks now has over 12,000 stores worldwide and is opening 6 stores a day. The coffee chain will open as many as 1,000 shops in India, the 4th largest Asian economy. Tea is still the most popular beverage in India, yet coffee consumption has grown at an average of 6% per year. According to asset management in Chicago, it's a status symbol to have a Starbucks cup in your hand, and with more Asian workers in professional jobs, this gives them more disposable income. Still to come, see what some of America's top Asian sports stars are up to. We'll take you into one local organization dedicated to kids but in need of your help. And our Ingrid Yonato reveals the inconvenient truth of some fertility clinics. All up next on AAN. We've always been told not to judge a book by its cover, but for one organization, they've hardly had the chance to be seen to ever be judged. AAN takes you to the corner of Lawrence and California. Did you ever notice the center on 2801 West Lawrence and their sign made of Xerox paper? Inside is a place so warm, so full of life, and with over 30 special lives.
I come here after school and volunteer when I'm not working.
We get to do fun things. She takes us places in the summer.
She's a nice woman that she take care of us.
Sherry Fenton, is the founder of Asian Youth Services, an organization that is badly in need of funds. And while most are part-time volunteers here, Fenton has made this her 9 to 5. Founded back in 1991, Fenton saw a problem within the Southeast Asian community.
I felt like they weren't getting services.
Okay.
The dropout rate was so high among those groups.
Okay.
And the kids that I tended to get came from families where the parents were pre-literate and didn't read or write in English. And they just weren't doing well in school.
My parents were not big with college and stuff. With her, she forced me to go. She's like, you gotta go, you have to go, so I went.
Since the days open, hundreds of children have come through the door, taking full advantage of all its services.
It's a drop-in center. We have tutoring. We have a scholarship program. Obviously, we feed kids. We have music lessons for kids now, which is something sort of new. We just started.
There's always help there available for you. Like if you're like struggling with something like in school, there's always somebody there to help you write a paper or, just explain how stuff works out.
But keeping the door open hasn't been an easy task.
Keeping this place open is really hard because she's a non-profit organization, so everything that goes money-wise, she has to raise it herself. So
to help Fenton keep these kids off the street, make a donation or become a volunteer by calling 773-517-8525 or log on to AsianYouthServices.org.
Sherry is a nice person. She buys us jackets, and we get to play around and do our homework.
Getting your message across can be quite a challenge, especially if you don't speak English. But now, it doesn't matter what the need is. One service provided by the Chicago Police is here to smooth out the talk. But how reliable is it? Our Ingrid Yonato, who speaks Indonesian, puts this city service to the test.
I called 311, the city's non-emergency number.
What language do you speak?
Indonesia.
Indonesia? Okay, hold on.
The city operator then contacted the translator, a Canadian-based company that the city hired to give over-the-phone interpretation for more than 140 languages, every hour, every day. Within minutes, I was connected to a fellow Indonesian.
Halo, Ibu.
Halo.
Apa kabar?
Baik.
Apa yang bisa dibantu, Bu?
I talked in my native tongue, and the translator would convert my message back to English to the city operator, and vice versa.
Is she Ingrid? Nama Anda Ingrid, Bu?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The interpreters are trained only to repeat what was said by both parties, not to provide instructions or advice.
Mbak, ini lokasinya emang dari Indonesia, Mbak?
Saya?
Iya.
Oh, tidak. Saya di Kanada.
Even when I tried to have a personal conversation with the interpreter, she explained what was talked about between us to the city operator.
The caller just asked me where I'm located. I said in Canada. Oh, okay. Oh, wow, you're quite away.
This free translation service over the phone is available for both emergency and non-emergency calls. The verdict? This police service could really talk the talk.
Thank you, interpreter, for your help. Thank you. Have a good day. You too. Thank you.
Ingrid Yanada, AAN News.
NFL's Korean-American Hines Ward will be part of the Super Bowl 41 pregame show. The Pittsburgh Steelers' Korean heritage will be highlighted by CBS. The network announced Ward, his mother, and contribution to Korean society will be told in a touching way. The wide receiver established the Hines Ward Helping Hands Korean Foundation to provide support for biracial children in Korea. He wants to help them overcome discrimination and to become influential figures in society. Ward has played with the Steelers since 1998. He's earned 3 MVP awards since. Is Major League Baseball ready for their first female general manager, even an Asian one? Well, 38-year-old Kim Ing is the assistant general manager of the LA Dodgers. Her job to negotiate salaries and to assess talent on the field. Chances to run for a team doesn't occur often. Well, because opportunities are rare, but Ing is in the best position to become the first female manager in the major American sport, as well as an Asian pioneer. She interviewed for the top Dodgers job last year, but finished as a runner-up. An Indian doctor found a shocking truth. He sees most fertility clinic websites are not playing by the rules, and the information there to be misleading. Ingrid Yanada has more.
Dr. Tarun Jain at UIC and 2 other researchers at Harvard Medical School looked into hundreds of clinic websites in the nation. What he found was shocking.
We found that about 75% of all clinics had websites, but the majority of clinics that did have the websites, most of them were not following the guidelines for advertising that's been mandated by our medical society.
What was meant to give patients accurate information is used as a marketing tool.
Why would websites choose to publish success rates and those statistics?
Well, I think it's essentially to attract more patients. It's a fairly competitive field, and so any way to attract more patients can be appealing.
So it's just like a marketing strategy, more so.
Exactly.
The 6-month-long study showed how unregulated the contents in these websites are.
I think patients should be careful about, they should critically evaluate the information that they do see if they do access those websites in general. For instance, if something looks too good to be true, then perhaps it may actually be too good to be true.
So the safest thing to do for any patient?
Ultimately, I think it's important for a patient to really meet with the practice, the physicians, and get direct information from them.
But most of the time, those who are computer savvy would go on the internet for information before they meet a physician. So here are a few things patients should look out for when searching a reliable clinic.
Their websites must show a disclaimer.
The disclaimer that a comparison of clinic success rates may not be meaningful because patient medical characteristics and treatment approaches may vary from clinic to clinic. If they're presenting success rate information, you should make sure that there's detailed information and that it's not selective information. They're presenting their entire data, not just specific to certain diagnoses. They should also be presenting live birth data, not just pregnancy rate, but actually how many live births. And furthermore, it shouldn't just be percentages, but it should also specify the numerator and denominator, so you know out of how many attempts there has been success. For example, if a place just says a 60% success rate, you may not know whether that's out of 10 patients or 1,000 patients.
And lastly,
if you see that they're trying to compare their success rate with other practices in the area, that should be a red flag as well, because it's not acceptable to directly compare success rate information, since individual clinic success rates can vary from population to population.
Dr. Jain's study is published in this month's issue of the Medical Society's Journal. Ingrid Yanada, AAN News.
Dedicated to working for the Asian American community, she is the new development director for the Korean American Community Services. AAN has this exclusive interview with Grace Yoon. The Korean American Community Services is a non-for-profit organization dedicated to serving the local community. And here we have Grace Yoon, their new development director. Thank you so much for coming by, Grace.
Thank you so much for having us.
Not a problem. So tell us a little bit about the Korean American Community Services.
Well, Korean American Community Services is the oldest and largest and most comprehensive social service provider in Chicagoland area that serve Korean Americans and neighbors. Okay. We do have a wide range of services that help immigrants to be more self-sufficient, including preschool programs at Children's Childhood Center. We have counseling and wellness program. We have a public health programs, job replacement services, very diverse programs that we provide.
Wow, that's a lot. So what exactly do you do there then?
Well, as you said, my title is development director. So I will be doing grant writing, special programs, and special events, and also communication and volunteer and donor relations. So basically, I will help the organization to make a next step. To do that, I think fundraising is important.
So do you like it?
This is my second week, so it's hard to say yes or no. However, I feel really fortunate to working at such a large organization like KBC, and I look forward to learning new things there.
Okay. Now, before this position, I understand that you were working with the Korean American Women in Need for 2.5 years. So what made you want to do the transition?
Well, it was really hard decisions personally and professionally. Kenyon was my first professional job after school. There I learned a lot of things, including the women's issues that affect all of us, including our mother and sisters and friends, and build a network there. However, at the same time, I wanted to work at really large organizations and basically expose myself to to different experience and also still contribute to community that I care for. So I thought that this job at KBC is perfect fit.
Okay. You've been working with the Asian community for the past 3 years. Why do you see it so important to work with the Asian community?
Well, my passion to Asian American community has grown within me gradually. As an immigrant and first generation Korean American in Chicago, myself, I too well understand the importance of community support. No matter where you go and no matter what you do, I think it's important to understand, what made you who you are today. And I really want a lot of, especially young Asian American professionals to get more involved with the community. I think that's where my passions are, and experience at Kenman and hopefully with KBC will help me to do that.
Okay. Well, how can some people start getting involved in this field like you?
Well, I guess to think about issues that you really care about, and then volunteering at places that deliver services to help people. And then also think about being a board members at different nonprofits out there that carry services and programs to people and immigrants ourselves. And I think that's a great start. And also build network with other nonprofits, professionals, to learn more about the community, to learn more about the issues that affect all of us.
Well, I know you only been at KBC for 2 weeks, but what do you see in the future for yourself?
I think KBC is facing several challenges and at the same time opportunities. Having a development staff at KBC is very important, and hopefully, I will bring a lot of resources there. I would like to create more opportunities at KBC in areas of bringing more resources and diversifying the funding resources, in making the process more effective. Either communication or just relationships with others, without making staff life harder, I guess.
Are you guys looking for more staff or volunteers even?
Yes, we are always looking for volunteers and hopefully more board members if you are qualified. So always, contact us for volunteer opportunities.
Okay, and how can they contact you guys?
Well, there's our website. It's
www.kacschgo.org. And do you have a phone number?
Yeah, sure. Our phone number is 773-583-5501.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Grace, and congratulations to your new position.
Well, thank you.
And we hope to see more of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for choosing AAN, your Asian news leader. If you have any questions about our show or have story ideas, write us at AAN41Chicago@AOL.com. Catch our rebroadcast Tuesday mornings at 8 and tune in next Monday night where our Ingrid Yonata covers a mother's plight for her son's rights. I'm Lily Kim. Thank you and see you next time.